It just makes me laugh all the time. All
Hey
right.
guys, I'm serious. I'm a serious one here. You already know who's making me. They have
I
something
can't.
new to
I can't help it on a Wednesday. Just
do. Addis
until
nagalaman?
uh,
Addis
unt,
nagamat tawag.
until Pentecost, I'm
Yung
gonna be smiling, and I have more of a reason to smile as well. Sometimes you don't know why the Lord calls you, where He calls you to serve. And I realized when I went to Norway, my biggest call was to put a smile on my face. The service was wonderful and truly made me smile. I had struggles and I was healed. And I thank God for that.
But how shallow,
Uh,
dingalo.
in
It's
all
like the
honesty,
plot of every Muslim.
and wouldn't you? Would one thing that we're missing here in America is that our healthcare system is insane, though. And when I went there, I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is amazing."
Yeah,
Basically, it's free healing. This is God's work. Even though
not really.
it's the government structure, I still thank God for it.
How? So it's very difficult for me to conceptualize Norway. I guess that. So what city were you in? You remember?
I was in Oslo and I was able to
Okay.
visit
How big is
Kristiansand.
the country? Buzu Teira?
It's
Did you get to
pretty
see a lot of places?
it's pretty big, yeah. I went to
Okay.
Stavanger, and it's very close to Sweden and Denmark.
Oh, okay, okay. And you got
And
to like see the places? Really?
yeah,
Okay.
the craziest thing, the craziest experience that I had there is that it's basically very close to the North Pole. So if you
Mm-hmm.
go all the way north in Norway, you will see the Northern Lights and stuff like that. But it would be midnight, and you would see sunlight at midnight. 3 a.m. sunrise. 3:30 a.m. sunrise.
Huh.
It's crazy. So it's only dark for 3 hours. Talk about, the Lord is my light.
Yeah.
I was
Bahay
seeing like
Sharak, literally. Talala.
that. It doesn't mess around. It doesn't even go in. Arab. So there is no way it's gonna come out.
Man,
So yeah,
man, what a beauty.
yeah, it's an amazing
I can't
place.
wait to see it, man. Which is
Yeah,
done and then Taraganalko and
well, you,
and
you
Ronaldo.
you just have to take the
And
responsibility.
then
You
Tamantik
just don't
Adam
listen.
Koyadik.
You have a perfect smile. You have this perfect smile. You can't complain. You know how long it took me. For 3 years, I didn't smile. Now I'm like you.
The
The what?
past
What?
episode would say otherwise.
Yeah. No, seriously. For the people that are watching, this is how I used to laugh every time on this podcast, hiding through the mic. But now I'm out here. Thank Jesus.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Isaac. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Tawhedo today. This is very long overdue. Ngidi, Christ is truly risen. Christ is risen.
Truly is risen.
እንግዲህ በትንሣኤው በዛው ተኛን አይደለ?
ጌታ ሲነሳ እኛ ተኛን።
እኛ ተኛን።
ከእንቅልፍ እንደተነሳ as if he rose from sleep and then give us all the
Yeah,
sleeping pills. Yeah, but yeah, we
yeah,
here though.
but we are back. እንግዲህ the topic we're going to go over today actually is going to be ironically tackling the very thing we did. The very thing
To be an
we went
example. To be an example.
yeah. ጠፋችሁ ላላችሁ like you guys disappeared ላላችሁ yeah basically like አትጥፎ ከቤተክርስቲያን ነው that's the topic of today. እኛ ጠፍተንላችሁ እንዳትጠፉልን እንላችሁ
Yeah, the crazy thing is that, also there's a lot of viewers in Norway. I don't know if you know.
I didn't know that. Like I noticed that there's a very out of country viewer. For example, Ireland. There's this one girl like I think either commented on YouTube or the Spotify. She said that she doesn't have any churches in Ireland, but
Oh,
then
wow.
she like religiously followed the show. And
Wow.
I just thought, wow, God really works in mysterious ways because
That is
like no
amazing.
Ethiopian Christian in Ireland, but then somehow she found it.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah,
That,
yeah,
that's amazing. Same with Norway when they were like, "Yeah, we love the podcast." I was like, "You watch the podcast?" I was so
Ma,
happy.
ma,
That's me,
get
bro.
Podcast mo na.
The thing is, like, uh, they asked about the next episode, and I was like, "Yeah, we're just having a difficult time editing it." And
Mm,
I felt
yeah, that's
terrible
fun.
because I was in the church, and I was like, "Oh my gosh." I apologized the next day. I was like, "I'm sorry, I was lying," you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Inconsistencies.
Nah, I mean we're here though. We're here though. The
That's all
most
that
important
matters.
part is really showing up whenever you do show up, showing up, and that's actually the meaning of Pascha is that like a Passover. So like you're moving from the Greek word for Pascha is Pascha, which means
Yeah,
Passover, which
yeah.
is almost exactly the feast that the Israelites celebrated. But then the as Saint Paul says, Christ is our Passover. We're the Passover has been almost sanctified, let's say, or transfigured or changed for a new purpose,
Mm,
which is under the guise of Christ. So Moses brought out the Israelites from Egypt.
yep.
Christ is our quote unquote, let's say Moses, who brought us out of Egypt, which is the life of sin, life of death, as Saint Ambrose of Milan said. Anyways, before we go into the
Uh,
big stuff,
no, no, no.
the big stuff,
I was just like,
I wanna ask
mhm.
አንተን እስቲ እንግዲህ በደንብ ሰርጉን like all the weddings that we got, like right
Oh
straight
man,
out
what a
of
feast!
straight out of the the fast was
Yeah,
oof mesbelna.
I bet that. I
Coming
bet
up
that.
first was our beloved brother Deacon Abid,
Yes.
and it was I think I don't think you got to see the technique, so the actual service.
Unfortunate. Yeah, unfortunately, I
Yeah,
was then I was not able to make it
and the funny thing is, so I was there for this service, but then I
yeah
had to leave early, and then
for the
you
reception.
were there for the
For the
reception.
reception. Yeah.
So so now I get to ask you, how was the reception? Because I didn't really, I only saw some videos, but then I want to see how
Honestly,
did you.
just as magical because we see a lot of weddings. I've seen a lot of young weddings as well. So I got to experience things that I didn't experience in the past weddings before.
Mhm.
Uh, the what ups, the songs, how organized everything was. I think it was our brother Diakon Jonathan.
Mhm.
Maybe he
Mhm.
was in charge of like the Mazmur flow and everything. So it was just,
Yeah.
I was just amazing because usually you would just see sporadic type of singings,
Mhm.
unorganized, but
Mhm. Mhm.
everything was organized, and it was like to the point. Like here, we're gonna
Yeah.
celebrate the wedding, we're gonna have fun, and we don't have to
Mhm.
extend
Mhm.
it. Nothing has to be overdone. It was on time. We went on time, left on time. I thought it was incredible. Well
You
planned.
know, one of the cool things I found out through Jonathan actually, yeah, when Jonathan is some of the now Zathans actually were Mazmurs. So, for example, this might scandalize some people. We're definitely gonna clip this. This is gonna this is gonna get a lot of the Avashas clicking into it. So,
Yeah.
Yenyama Mushara.
I
You know,
didn't even know that.
you know what?
Yenyamu
Yes,
Shara. Okay, yeah.
that was actually a Muslim. Did you know that?
Really?
Yeah,
I did
it
not.
was.
I had no clue.
Yeah, and
Wow.
interestingly no more, like it wasn't like just a little. It was like made from as a ያሬዳዊ by እንትን የተዘመረው በእንትን ነው በተምሮ ማስተማር ምስካየ
Wow.
ሰንበት ትምህርት ቤት so
Yeah.
የኛማ ሙሽራ I just for context for some of us that don't know የኛማ ሙሽራ is currently one of the most well-known like Ethiopian traditional quote unquote songs, right? So if you looked up Yenyama Mushara on
Yeah.
YouTube,
Yeah.
You would hear the little beat, and then just
Not that we
very
recommend that you go watch it, but
yeah.
yeah.
But not the EOTC recommended. So
No,
definitely do not listen to that.
we
Okay,
do
quote
not
unquote, do
advocate.
not listen to that. But it's actually Damo the Zema itself, like the same way. Is sung by Tabaro Mastamar, and I would have never found that out if it wasn't for Diakon Jonathan. And he's really taking into, actually at some point we might have
Yeah.
him on, and he's very taking into the early, what were the hymns like Yitwarak and Abraham, like that was also one of them, like
Absolutely.
like
That was kidnapped.
Muhammad,
It was kidnapped.
that was, I'm telling
Yeah.
you, man, a
Hey.
lot of the Muslims were kidnapped into
Yeah. But
yeah
it brought him back to Christianity, so I can't complain.
yeah,
He
nah.
said he's Tuareg and he became Orthodox.
تملصوا.
Yeah.
No, it's very as you said, like really, Deacon Jonathan, his service is very very much well appreciated because
Yeah.
he has that talent that God has given him, which is, through the service of hymnody, so specifically Yared hymnody. So
Absolutely.
very very much well appreciated.
But when sorry, go ahead. I think we're talking about the wedding stuff.
Yeah, no, I was
I had
asking
a
you
few
because you said
questions.
the hymns, and like I just kind of wanted to see like
Yeah.
what your experience was of Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It
Did you
was
have
really
any?
great.
Okay, okay, okay.
No, no, no. Continue, and I'll ask it before we
Is she?
close the wedding thing.
Okay, okay. Is she? So Yenny, on Thursday, it started very early. Okay,
Okay.
so just to kind of give you a picture, guys, let's go
Okay.
back real quick. Let's
Yeah. Yeah.
rewind.
Mm-hmm.
We have in the Ethiopian Orthodox calendar system, so we celebrate Pascha actually not just once Sunday, Tensai.
Yeah.
We celebrate it for all of the week. Every single day of the week is, it celebrates the same day as though it's Sunday, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So like Ma'adot, like just like their names of the days,
Yeah.
and for each day there are specific hymnodies. Even though the Angargari Maltan, anyways, like
It's
please,
the
hopefully
same.
it doesn't get a little too complicated. But
Yeah.
it's they celebrate it as though it's Sunday, like
Yeah.
it's actually Tinsaye. They celebrate it every single day, and so Dagan Tinsaye. And so on Thursday, my day started with going to church earlier on Marathon. So
Okay.
seeing the services, seeing the hymnodies. Obviously, from your church, dearly Kadabatakli, you know how he is. You don't gotta say. If you want
MVP.
to come and see, you come and see come and see him at Dallas, Texas
The
for
goat.
yes, the goat, greatest of all time. Ngudi, like glory to God for him.
Yeah.
And he led the services, and it was very beautiful, very captivating.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I'm the crazy person in a crowd because the hymns, they sound nice, but then because I'm the nerd of the group, I'm the one that always asks, what does this mean?
Yeah.
And then thankfully I've gotten to a certain place where I either look up the words before I attend the service, or as
Yeah.
I attend the service, I have a sense of what's being said. And
Yeah.
when I smile, like I smile really wide in services, and people think it's because I see some of the guys moving interestingly,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and sometimes it is, but then most of the time I just love what's being said, and I wish everyone understood it. And so
Yeah.
like it was just one of those days services that all of that was coming together, like the zema with the meaning, with the, like, all of it was coming
With that
together
there. Yeah.
for me. And then it was just such a beautiful service. So at 4, so imagine from 11 to 4 was
11 p.m.
11
Saturday
p.m.
to 4
Mind
a.m. Sunday.
yeah, 11 p.m. Wednesday
Yeah.
yeah, the 3 a.m. Thursday.
Whoa.
And that, so imagine that. Let me preface it with that.
Yeah.
Hazahala 4 a.m. Dagmo, like we finished Angagari Madan, everything,
Yeah.
and then right before Tidan is like we're letting the kids in Matu. And like we received them. The entire service happened, like the service of the
Measurement.
promise.
Yeah.
of the prayers of the matrimony.
Yeah.
And then after that, we did Ya Salam al Muknai. So the Salam al Muknai is hymns that are based upon the songs of Solomon
Okay.
from the Old Testament. And so
Yeah.
we did that, man. And then it was in such unison because, man.
It
And
flows smooth.
then, because Zahala just went straight into Qadasi, the Holy Liturgy, man, like, and then just like back to back to back. I think the only thing that was kind of a little is the in between programs was, if I'm gonna be completely honest,
Unnecessary.
is a little there's actually a funny story.
Yeah.
It was what Avon and the so one of the bishops,
Okay.
he
One of the bishops.
yeah, so there are two bishops,
Two bishops.
Buzwan
Wow.
of Idris and then
What a
Buzwan
blessing.
of Avon.
Okay.
And the funniest thing, everyone was sleeping at this point, mind you, because most of the guys they came early at 11. I only came at
Yeah.
3, and now Alvin and the rest they just got up like when Yastamar al Tabelo, and they said and that they were gonna teach.
Yeah.
They started teaching. 10 minutes later, they finish and they say Bakka, like
Wow.
over, and then they stand up, they do the prayer, right? And then
Yeah.
we're like, okay, thank God, like this is a short service.
Yeah.
But then they they stopped. Like the priests, like as soon as the prayer was over, they're like, okay, thank you, Batachin, and then they went over into like a little longer of a program,
Okay.
like speeches and everything. But it was just interesting to me because they were like, okay, let's it's a sadhgh, let's cut it short a little bit. But then
Yes.
it was very
So was it
it's not very
Abu
well.
Andreas that said enough, or was the priest that said enough?
No. It was Awan Nadas himself. Like as soon as he
That's
finished speaking
amazing.
himself, he said "Baka," like "Jarasana," like
That's a
it's
plus.
too, like let's not draw it out like sarg.
Yeah.
It's like of course we have to learn, of course. But then at the same time,
Yeah.
it's a sarg. Like it's not a regular Sunday. Like, let's
Please.
keep it short to the point.
Yeah.
And so in that spirit, they started praying to for the conclusion benediction prayer. And so, and then the other priests did not get the memo. So, so
Other
they just said, "Kale Samana," and they just kind of like, shrugged it off a
started.
little bit.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
you know. Diagon if you're watching, please send me Abu Andreas' number. I have never met anyone that give a 10-15 minute sermons
You would be
on a wedding,
surprised.
bro. It's the most
You would be
frustrating
surprised.
thing.
Yeah,
Like
he just
I don't
finished
need
it.
a lecture like on my wedding day, bro.
Exactly. And now
Yeah.
it was such a. And then after that, we went out. All of it, everything was perfectly balanced and came together very, very beautifully. Um, yeah, I think. Did you have a question about like you said you wanted to raise
Yeah,
something about?
as far as
Sorry.
like hymnities go and everything, how everything is kind of changing. And then I think yesterday I had some discussions with my students. Of course, I teach every Tuesday. For those of you who are wondering, you could go on the website to see the topics.
The floor,
The
the
course, just
floor.
a quick play, yeah. And they always have very interesting, intriguing questions. And one of them was that, how do you feel about mahalete gumbos on weddings? And they're becoming popular. Is it appropriate to use, spiritual instruments like kabaros and zanazel to sing, these songs that are not technically uh, of, Yaridawi, like whatubs? And I was like, oh, that's intriguing. And, kind of like, one of those, and I
Yeah,
was like,
your
I thought
favorite
that was
guy.
cool. I was like, don't come at me. Like, that's my favorite guy. I was so upset, but I had to keep it together. And but
Yeah.
it was a genuine and valid question, and I was wondering,
Mhm.
is it do we do too much with those things? Like Yentana, Wibatu, Fasasa, Bangatu, and all these
Yeah.
things. How should we
Hmm.
feel about these things? And I think, like you said, maybe bringing in Diakon Yonatan one day and then just having that discussion with him might be better. But how do you feel about those things?
So cool. Interestingly enough, me and Dagonathan briefly had a discussion related to that in the
Yeah.
past,
Okay.
and
Wow.
and you know the term Yareda Uzema is actually very very loosely used among the fathers because Yareda Uzema, if we want to go by how people, like, and by people I mean the more rigid type, uh, congregants
Mm.
go by, then that would mean straight Kunzema. It's because Zimbami and everything, interestingly, was actually started by later fathers. So, like, either disciples of Saint Arid
Yeah.
or disciples of Saint Arid. So it wasn't, Zimbami wasn't like, earlier on, like, in the hymnody of Saint Arid.
Yeah.
Zimbami meaning like the use of the prayer staff, and even the Sanat of even that was like also like a use to keep the rhythm by one of his disciples, not exactly him. And then you see that when you notice, for example, the like Warab's Zeke's like Maharit in general, like the
Yeah.
history of it, you start to see, and this is not my opinion, you start to see that they start to appear, um, in the 10th, 11th century, around that time.
Yeah.
Um, and so, like, if we start from that, from that baseline, so you start to think, okay, so what were they doing? Like, how were the Ethiopians praising? And so there's this. So this is my second point. There's this one video that was posted by that account on Instagram called Zumare Malekt.
Yes. Yes. There's so many of them, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, it was bizarre, but then I mean, for me, clearly hilarious. But
Yeah.
then for just anyone that saw it, probably bizarre. It was a video from the 70s, at least that's what it said in the caption,
Okay.
and it was people gathered around with kavaro, right, and then they were doing some sort of, I'll loosely call it zephen, but
Uh.
then really just like Hizbawi Mazmur, like, Hizbawi said it, just, kind of, there wasn't Mazmur until really like our parents' generation. Like, if we're
Mm.
gonna be honest, like there
Mm.
wasn't like hymns, a song, like as you said, songs, like until our parents' generation, which is 80 years ago.
Yeah.
So a little time before that, like during Tawots, this video on Zamare Malekt basically is like Tawut, the procession of the Tawut, the Ark of the
Yeah.
Covenant,
Yeah.
coming out, and then people are encircling it, singing like melodies that aren't mazmurs, quote unquote. Okay,
Manifestawi Zafen.
it's, yeah. Let's just call it that. And so, and I guess I'm finding I'm finding it a little difficult because I already know, like, Andukan, one of our fathers come in,
Yeah.
man, it'll be over for me.
Yeah.
but
Spiritual music.
but I'm still like talking in facts so far in my
Yeah.
lesson, so
Yeah.
I can still cover my basis with the videos and
Oh,
everything that you said.
absolutely. Yeah. We got
So, but
evidence.
then, so when you look at that, so you start from that perspective,
Yeah.
you see, okay, if this is if this mindset that we have of, okay, like, overzealousness is like entirely wrong, it wouldn't be so pervasive or so earlier on,
Mm.
so earlier on.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to justify it. I'm not trying to say that this is okay and this is not, and this is not. What I am trying to do is taking the stance that St. Paul took in Romans when it comes to food, and then bringing that same stance with hymns,
Mm.
right? Which is what St. Paul took, is let the person who does, like, who eats or does not eat for the glory of God, like, let that person who eats not judge the person who doesn't eat, regarding fasting, or however you want to interpret it. You can
Yeah.
go over to Romans to check it out. And
Yeah.
then the person that does not eat cannot judge the one that eats. As long as they both are from the perspective of they're doing it for the for the glory of God. Of
Yeah.
course, that doesn't apply to us now because canonically we are bound by obedience to fast.
Exactly. Yeah.
But then Mazmur is still very, like, it's still integrating into our society a little bit, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and it's not, like, even wet ups are fairly new too. Like, interestingly enough, like it was the progression was like Zeke, like the Tsanazels, and then after that was uh, Amanadis, and then wet ups. Like there's still like a progression. Uh,
Yeah,
that and then Makarab even wasn't really a thing. Like when you go to Gondarbata, and then that's for another episode.
yeah.
But just briefly though, when you go there, like Akarabo, and they just automatically stop. Like literally, when they get to
What up?
the brink,
Yeah,
you know how we just like go like ham into it
yeah, yeah.
during
Like nope.
Mahanith?
Yeah.
They just stop. Like videos still, you see it today. Like they just stop. Like for
Wow.
Wada.
Yeah.
And so again, like it's a new thing. Should we be cautious? Yes. Like Mahanith Ganmo, should we be cautious? Yes. Should we be seeking the meaning? Yes. But then should we be measuring? Like, oh, you're a little too excited there, buddy.
Yeah.
Why?
Hold your
Why?
horses.
And then break out the ruler, and then
Yeah.
you're jumping like
That's not.
you're like too
Yeah, you're
much.
about to break the meter.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I don't think that measurement really like it's even I don't even think it's spiritually healthy to do that.
I think it's
But then at the same
hold
time,
on.
should we be cautious? 100%. Should we
Yeah.
be watchful
Yeah.
and mindful? Yes, 100%. But then at the same time, to bring out that measuring tape, and then try to
Yeah.
as much as we can, we have to take it with everyone is doing it for the glory of God. And if no one if you think someone else isn't, if it's not your responsibility to speak to that person, then just take it as good, and then you personally just do it for the glory of God. Like if
Yeah.
you're a bishop or a priest, of course go ahead, correct that person. But then if you're not a bishop or a priest,
No,
why?
with no authority
Why?
on the matter, then yeah, there is no point in
Yeah,
yeah
yeah. Like
being an
Wayne
activist.
and I'm not talking about like, what are you doing? No, you can't tell him just 100 that's like
Yeah.
you
It doesn't make any type of sense, to be honest with you.
exactly.
I think this is the most spiritual we've ever been. I understand, some people say, this is basically music. So what's the point? Like alam bazafana boom, just might as well.
Hmm.
But that's
Hmm.
not the case because, 60, 70 years, actually not even that far. Even when my parents had a wedding, there was no such thing as mezmur and weddings. That didn't exist. So it was just
Hmm.
zafan, like Halo Gashabo, Manaman, Awara Uchasa, Amora, Manaman. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's just
Hmm.
one of those things. So
Hmm.
I think we're in a good place, and these Malate Gambos and fun, you know, Manfasai Zafanuj are bringing in more people closer to matrimony than ever before. People used to
Yes.
not get married in the church, especially
Hmm.
Bemazmur.
Hmm.
Even to this day, some people see it as lakso basically. Even when
Hmm.
you tell your parents like, "Oh, I'm about to get married in the church," they're gonna be like, no, manaragnish, what did we do to you? Why are you making us so sad?" Type of thing. We went to
Yeah.
celebrate.
Hmm.
So, but now seeing these things, a lot of people are like excited about the wedding. Like when I was there at at Diagonabel's wedding with Zamarit Beti, it was
Hmm.
incredible. I was enticed. I was like, "Well, I can't wait until I get married too." So that's what the mindset is in most of young people. Again, you take that away from this society, then there's no one's gonna get married in the church. It's
Exactly.
just
And so,
gonna be a
like,
civil
even
wedding,
being careful,
Yeah,
Malatako, it doesn't mean
being
so.
loose. Yeah.
You tend to look at it like a hierarchy. That's usually how
Oh,
how I
I'm saying,
understand it,
yeah,
because
yeah,
that's usually how I understand in the sense of, for
yeah,
example, there's a hierarchy of goods. Okay, let's say, even in the church marathon, and so that means there's the ultimate good, the holy of holies, which is the holy Eucharist, right?
yeah,
That's how you commune with the Lord. That's how you connect with the Lord, right? But then at the very bottom of the list, like at the totem pole, like outside of the church, outside of the compound of the church, in your house, and not just in your like regular living area, in your bedroom, right?
yeah,
When you're married, like, and then there's a good there. You know what I mean? So like, but then you don't bring that good into the
yeah.
holy of holies. There's like a hierarchy. There's levels to it, and
Mm,
at least the people that that when I was wedding, there's መንፈሳዊ መዝሙር like in the tent,
Yeah.
ጸለይን አመሰገንን ቤተክርስቲያን like መዝሙር everything. And
Yeah.
then as we moved like step by step to the
Away from.
car, that's when the degeneration the
you know.
degeneration started
Yeah.
towards manfasawi question mark quote unquote, and
Yeah.
then manfasawi is up. So it's not again like this is again how I see it, because to not go too deep, there are hierarchies of goods, and so to follow that pattern and to make sure that we're maintaining the structure of keeping what is holy in its proper place, is
Yeah.
that's important.
Yeah.
And we see that in our faith, even uh, like our sisters, they don't go in during their menstrual cycle. You know what I mean? Like that's that
Yeah.
type of stuff. Like
Yeah.
we keep the holy thing holy, and then there's like a, you know what I mean? Because at
Yeah.
that point, you end up, if you start to cut stuff off, you start to become a sort of fundamentalist Pharisee,
Yeah.
because
Exactly.
it ends
Because,
up being
you know.
like the witch trials in Salem,
Yeah. There
and
was. I saw a sermon that criticized women for praying during their monthly cycle. They said you can't touch Masahaf. You can't read a Bible. I was
I'm sorry, I can't, dude,
that
I
is
can't.
there is
We
I
need
was
to bring these people on. I need genuinely,
flabbergasted.
just to
It's
Manakabala.
bro.
Who gave it to you?
Who?
Manakabala.
Yeah, and they clip things from the weddings. I believe it was the other wedding that recently happened is Zamari Lydia's and Doctor Diakon Abel's.
Mhm.
Oh, both Abel's. Yeah, but
Oh,
they clipped it, and then they're like, "Oh, this is not Mizmur." And everybody was going off. And the problem with our community is that if a person posts that post as a negative, and you just go read the comments, they're all negative. But if
yes.
someone goes and posts it like amazing, everyone does the same thing. That means we have zero understanding of what goes
Yeah.
on. We just see the title and comment random emotions, basically cursing.
Yeah.
These two amazing new words ማለት ነው እና በጣም it saddens me. Like I said, ግን ያው በኋላ በደንብ በሰፊው with the ዲያቆን ዮናታን ብናወራው I would be.
Yeah,
I think
definitely,
everybody would
definitely.
love it
Yeah,
too
yeah,
because
Maskina
we got.
Gargara,
Huh?
it's really just, it really kind of goes to show that yeah, Maskin Agar, like our country, or like our culture, our people really at a large are more, um, they don't they don't know what they know, what they don't know. Let's just say that. Okay, so they
Yeah,
don't know what they don't know. So everyone is at the same level due to social media. So it just kind of ends up being a battle in
yeah.
G. You know, it's
Unfortunate.
really, yeah. Speaking of
Anyway,
content, though, speaking of content, I have a movie for you, my man. Do I have a movie for you, actually?
what movie?
And not only you, my brother, but also like the viewers and listeners. It's this movie called Man of God, which I think is very characteristic of the season that we're in right now, which is the season of Pascha, in which everyone always talks about how there's a decline. As we said earlier, Inya,
Yeah,
what decade?
yeah.
That's not much.
Food was heavy.
And so there's a decline usually after Pascha, and various reasons for that. But then before we go into those and start to discuss that, this movie, it's called Man of God. Okay, it was in cinemas for a lot of cinemas actually back in 2021.
Yeah.
Now it's free on YouTube. So with ads. So if you wanna go ahead and check it out, definitely. I mean, on everything really. It's on YouTube. It's on Apple TV. Like all the platforms that you get your movies from, except for Netflix. It's on there.
Yes.
And so it's one of the most amazing stories that I've ever seen.
I heard.
Did you?
I saw the trailer as well.
Mm,
And I really wanted to watch it as well. It's just very intriguing. And then I saw some of the interviews that with the director and the casts.
Yanni
You know,
Matukovic, yeah.
yeah, and like some of the miracles that were happening as they were shooting the movie and everything. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that's how like God is working through these people to give
Mhm.
us this amazing thing. But we still didn't see it. We've seen so many series, but we've never seen this movie.
Yeah.
I
This
I,
is
I
this is I
comment,
think
anybody if you've seen the movie, please comment below and see. We're trying to see something. Like how many
exactly.
of us really have seen this movie, even though it's been out for, like our brother said, since 2021. I am not one of them, so I can't comment.
Yeah. Maybe after this episode, next one night, you'll watch it and then
Oh, check me, check me.
do your thoughts on that. But to briefly speak about the man of God, it's very catchy. Obviously, like if people uh, just look at the title, they're gonna assume it's some pastor from good old Texas,
Hmm.
that's giving a sermon. That's the vibe it might give you, but then the story is about. You know what? I'm not gonna spoil it. Kanta Eowna,
Okay.
Anantam Yusma, Kazahala. But it's a really good movie. It's a really, really good.
Yeah,
Whenever we recommend something on here, I hope people really take it seriously and really watch it. Because as much as we'd love to recommend you
we
books,
give
let's
good
start.
stuff.
Let's start with the lowest level. The lowest
Yeah,
level is easiest level is movies. Go ahead and
visual
watch that
reading,
one.
visual reading.
Exactly, exactly. And
Yeah,
so, um, how to, now that we kind of got into that space, how to mitigate that indifference, that feeling of dejection that comes after spending time intensely praying after Holy Week. What do you think like? Where do you think we could start to kind of pick ourselves back up and then move forward with our spiritual life and then really enjoy the celebration of Fasika, but then at the same time maintain the spiritual benefits we've gained throughout the fast and specifically in Holy Week as well.
yeah. Um, the scary thing about our spiritual journey is, like, we're climbing up a mountain, cycling up a mountain in a way. As you're cycling up a hill, you're doing everything you can to go up the hill because it takes a lot of effort. But if you stop pedaling, you're gonna start moving backwards. You're gonna lose balance. You're gonna move backwards, and it's gonna be very difficult. But what we're doing, the reason why we cannot reach these spiritual heights, is because we stop pedaling after a certain moment. So our pedaling moments are these fasts that we have all throughout the year, and then the Sundays that we have at church. But the rest of the days, we are not progressing in the way that we should. So, like you say, we digress back to either where we were, or even worse, farther back than we ever really got into. So, it's important for us to maintain that progression. So, for us to start that, then we have to accept what we are doing, right? Meaning that we are progressing. The moment we stopped growing spiritually, that means we're not just halting, but we're going backwards. And it's going to get even worse. There's a reason why people who work out every day and then they stop for a day, it's impossible to go back the next day. And then their health, they start losing their muscle, their ability to lift, and all these things becomes even more difficult. So that's what we're doing. We build up our spiritual muscles, and then when we take a break, within that amount of effort, we lose everything. So it's impossible. It's almost impossible to go back. So I think first accepting where we are. As far as, if I stop today, if I stop my progress, I'm going to get so much worse, and I do not want to be there. And not seeing these moments as accomplishments, because the end goal is yet to come. Finishing a fast is not something to rave about. It is a great momentum to keep us going. It's like drinking, hydrating yourself for the next day, eating well. That is the reason why we have these spiritual short goals. The main destination, our final goal, is sanctity, or being sanctified. So we have ways to go. I think understanding that might help us at least take a step forward, in my eyes. What do you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, that's an interesting thing. I'm actually very glad that you said that, especially that last part. Sometimes we don't even know what our goal is. Did you know? Did you notice that?
That's the
Because
case because I lived through it. I had zero goals.
not in the like Western sense of, okay, I have a quota that I have to fill. I have to
Yeah,
get this many cigarettes by Friday. If
yeah,
I don't get the cigarettes, back علقني.
yeah,
That's not, that's not in the way that in which God wants us to, or even expects us, or even how reality spiritual life works. It's not in terms of how many cigarettes you've done. It's really a question to ask, like, what is it really, like, what's the goal here of these ascetical practices. Ironically, this is also answered a man of God, these ascetical practices, like, what's really the goal, like, why do I do this,
mm,
like the sigdats, the fasting, the prayers, like, why are we praying the prayers from the scriptures? Why do we have to go back? Why can't we be a little, I don't know, what's it called? What's the word that they use these days? Original. Why can't we be original? You know? And
why
then
be basic?
yeah, and so it's interesting to see like how um, we haven't we haven't seen, yes, because our fathers, our mothers, per personal matter, not our church fathers, tend to do this without asking, tend to partake of the church services without really asking, because they didn't never really had to.
Yeah,
They just, everyone lived the same life, so they never really had to ask questions about that.
yeah,
But then now we really have to ask, like, what is going on? Like, why? Let me to know. Like, really be that guy. Like, 'cause I mean, personally, and you know me, George.
yeah.
I'm that guy, the guy that's always why. But why though? The
Inquisitive,
6-year-old kid in the corner that you just want to smack because he just keeps asking why. Like, which man?
inquisitive.
Out of which
Yeah.
man?
It's it's hunger.
Yeah, no, good. That's
It's
what
not
that's what I mean.
seen
It's
as such. Yeah,
necessary.
yeah,
Because some people don't take it like that. But
yeah.
anyways, it is necessary though. It is necessary for
Important.
us who
Yeah,
live in the West to keep asking, but why though? But why though? Lemon.
yeah,
And the reason is not just for the sake of asking or to feed our ego, because now we know about the faith, but
yeah,
rather, okay, what's the goal here? And you said it. You hit it on the bullseye. The goal here is to be sanctified, to be holy. And interestingly enough, uh, the first, conservatively, I'll call it the first week of Avizo. Okay, conservatively, because Zawarada is really connected to Zaman Astareo and is referring to back to
yeah.
Christ being born and coming down. The first week is Qadis, you know?
Yep.
First week of the fast is Qadis. Interestingly, fast forward after Tinsai, Dagan Tinsai, as I said earlier, like every single day they celebrate it as though it's the Sunday. We
Yeah.
celebrate a whole week of Tinsai, technically. So at the end of that Tinsai, what do we praise? Like the praise that we sing is like Addiswamu Abba, like the prayer from John chapter 17, the prayer, the high priestly prayer of Christ. That's the one we hymnodized and pray. And in that prayer, Christ prays to the Father, saying, "Lord, sanctify them."
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's the goal. Like,
Hmm.
ultimately, really, that's the goal. And if your goal isn't that, if your ultimate goal isn't that, and it's just for the sake of doing it, for checking it off your list,
Mm.
then you're not going to benefit at all. If everything that you do, the
Absolutely.
sigadet, isn't like, Lord, heal me, Lord, sanctify me. If it's not an inquiry into arriving at that final end, then all of it is in vain. You end up becoming spiritually deluded, and it happens to a lot of people more than you know. Sadly, we can't go too deep into it right now, but it happens more and more than you know, and that's why even I'm reminded of the story of Elijah, right?
Mm.
And where God revealed Himself to Elijah in the First Kings chapter 19. He revealed Himself in various ways, but then one of the ways that uh, in which he truly felt the presence of God is through silence, like through stillness. And as we see in First Kings chapter 19, verse 11 to 12. So it's usually best to start with that's why there's a preparation week even for the fast, is to remind us, okay, this is a period to aramamo, like literally there's a word for it, to take back, to just take some time and have us reorient back to what the actual goal is, which is union with God. Being sanctified and having a relationship with God, let's use the word and that phrase, is the same thing.
Mm,
Having
mm.
a relationship with God and being sanctified is the same thing. It's not separate things. You cannot be sanctified without having a relationship with God, and vice versa. And
Very true.
so exactly. And so it's really, as you said, we take our foot off the brake of the um, مدينة باكر طفاين
Of the
of
pedal.
the gas.
Yeah, the pedal. Pedal to the metal.
Yes, and we take it off because we tend to forget almost why we're doing it. I was watching this one father who said, after we fast, we don't actually stop fasting.
I
After
like
we
that.
fast, we don't actually stop fasting. Makinatum, like the Lord didn't say, "Oh, like fast and then lik fasika mata baro
Yeah,
baka
do what you gotta do.
Charles was a Magoon. Charles was like,
Scares.
just go right back to the way that things were.
Yeah,
No, like enjoy, of course enjoy yourself, but then like do it in a way in the way in which that fasting that you did, as you said earlier, like the muscle, right? Like your cheat meal shouldn't be so big that it completely destroys.
yeah,
Like people go on. I think I've seen way too many TikToks about this.
yeah,
People, the fitness influencers always say this. People do like a Monday to Saturday diet, and
yeah,
then like with calorie deficit. They weigh it because
yep,
pizza below, burger below.
yeah. They
You come
destroy it.
like and then they just cancel like all the calorie deficit just canceled on
Becomes
one day,
pointless. Yeah,
and just goes back to square one. And it's reorienting yourself back to the goal. The goal is to be sanctified. And so how do you reorient yourself? Spend some time in silence. And it's
very true.
interesting that some of the psychologists are catching up to this. I've seen some psychologists talk about, oh, landesat, like stare at a wall, saying doing nothing. And I'm like, huh,
It's
where,
very interesting.
where have I heard silence before? I don't know.
Yeah,
Interesting. Like,
they're
okay,
saying fast. Do this now. Yeah, well, might as well become Orthodox. Let us
yeah,
baptize y'all.
just come back to that problem. Yeah, and so it's really like reorienting yourself back to the goal. But then, okay, so how do you actualize that goal? Let's say,
um,
because again, like I can be silent, like
yeah,
in my
yeah,
home.
yeah,
And then some people will always say, "Why do I need to go to church?" Lemon,
yeah. What's
because
the point?
if I could be silent now, you said to me, be silent, right? As just to feel the presence of God as Elijah. Great, I'll do it at home. Why should I go to church? Bilu assistim intellectual.
That's a very intriguing question because whether be it an Orthodox believer or any other denominational person, this is one of the questions that they are like, what's the point of church? Because the way we view church is different than the way the Western views church. Is just a building you meet up in and have fellowship in. But when you come to the Orthodox faith, one thing is for certain. One thing that we have to understand: this is not a mere building. This is the body of Christ Himself. This is why I think in the book of Acts, chapter 20:28, it says, "Shepherd the flock," and then the church that got established by His own blood. And it is just an incredible statement to me. Right? God established it by His own blood. What does that really mean? That means this is not mere building. It is part of Him as well. So therefore, the way we view church is completely different. Also, we don't have a sense of belongingness as well when it comes to church. So that is why we don't really resonate with the church. This is just a stranger. So this is one thing that I always say, and yeah. when I was younger, and certain people also feel this way, is that this when your parents drag you to random people's house, and you're just don't want to be there. Like, when are
Mhm.
we gonna go home? Because this is not home. Yeah. And I always say, over there, your parents are having fun. They're having great conversations, and you're here sitting like, oh my goodness, can we just leave already? And that's how we feel when we come to the church. Like, can we just go home already? Can we leave already? And then maybe after a while, we start tolerating it because we start making friends there, right? Certain places that you do not want to be in, you tolerate because you make friends there. Kind of like school. We don't like school, but over time we start tolerating it because we start making friends. So the essence of us going is not really why we're going, but who is there and how it makes us feel. And that shouldn't be the case, because the essence of church is finding sanctity and salvation. That's the whole concept of it. And without the church, it's impossible to find those things. For me, the way I go about it is, like I said, like when you said you don't stop fasting, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Because for me to move forward, to keep the momentum, what I do is keep the theme of Lent season all throughout my life, all throughout the year. Like you say, we start with like Zohar, God coming down, understanding why God came down to this world, and then I may have mentioned it maybe in the previous episode as well. And then holiness is very important, right? The next is Mukrab, the importance of the temple, how God cared for it. My goal is holiness. I need to understand why God cared for it so much, why He defended it so much, why He felt like this is my Father's house and this shall be a place of holy. And if you are in the mindset of being holy, then you are going to be in a place that is holy as well, right? Sanctified, set apart from the world. And I do these themes like the third week. Sorry, next being even Mazagu. Like,
Mhm.
it is a place where we get not just spiritual healing but also physical healing, kind of like the guy in Mazagu. That's what you find within the church, right? From your physical sickness, meaning even your mental unwellness, unrest can be healed and can be helped when you are within the sanctified place. So for that reason, we must be at church. And then next, we have the perspective of the second coming of Christ. We don't just live on this world. We don't just get our healings and go home, but we have an eternal perspective on life. And that is why the fifth week is themed, Deborah Zayt, understanding that Christ is coming back. When you have an eternal perspective, your whole life completely changes as well. And also, not just having that, but also using your talents, which is the next week, right? Understanding why you need to be a servant. You can't just be a consumer and a customer of the church. And that shouldn't be the way the church functions. Maybe you can also discuss it as just one of the reasons why people leave the church is because they feel like they're consumers and customers rather than spiritual followers of Christ. They're like, it's much better for me to follow Christ than to come to this place, pay for a subscription, and it feels like an exchange, a transactional relationship when it comes to church. So that perspective needs to change as well, because we are all servants. We're not consumers of the church. And then we have once we have these understandings, then spiritual wisdoms will come to us, because the next week is Nicodemus. Nicodemus was a servant of God's place, but yet he didn't understand wisdom. He was blinded until he met Christ that day, and he changed his life forever. So when you become a servant, it's not the end goal, but understanding the mysteries, like growing in wisdom and knowledge, is very important. And to grow in wisdom and knowledge, you need the church as well. And then only then salvation comes, Hosanna, right? So the Savior coming through the communal relationship that you will have and Holy Communion. Only then you really uh, capture the concept of spirituality for me.
Mhm.
Sorry, I went on for a
Do
little
you
too
see?
long.
No, no. Like again, as you're explaining it, do you see how cohesive it is?
Yeah,
Cohesive mind, like it doesn't. And this is one of our faults a little bit. We think that Sunday is the only day that those days are commemorated. Actually, in the Ethiopian faith, it's like
yeah,
every week, like Sunday to
every week.
Saturday is
Yeah,
Mikra. Like the Sunday to Saturday is just like the entire week.
yeah,
It's kind of like it's a cohesive story that's being formed. And as you were saying that, like that was beautifully said. Hosanna is the one that kind of like, it's a really interesting one. It's a
So
very
right.
interesting one because it's gonna call out a lot of people. Like and no,
Yeah.
Inyan is gonna call us out a little bit too. But the reason why it's so interesting to me is because the story, specifically as accounted in the Gospel according to Saint John, we see John chapter 11 is Lazarus was risen from the dead, like Christ
Yeah.
on Asasa, he
Yeah.
raised him from the dead. And then immediately after, like throughout the process, as you transition to to chapter 12, you see these Jews, they just can't stand Christ.
Yeah.
They just can't stand this man. They just want him out of the picture. But then now, because Lazarus is the walking witness, okay, aso,
Yeah.
like Lazarus is the walking witness, Mazagu is the walking witness, Nicodemus is the walking witness that Christ is truly the Son of God. They don't want like Lazarus walking around.
Yeah.
Okay, and so what do? Uh, uh, 12, chapter 12, you see all these people, okay, that Christ has done all these things, like the healings, miracles upon. They come together, they lay their leaves, their clothes, and they say, Hosanna, Adnan, Adnan, save us, Lord, save us, Hosanna in the highest. But then, just a few days later, what do?
The,
More than 90% of them
yeah.
flip. It's like a
Exactly.
switch. It's a switch right there. And it's
Yeah.
interesting because that phenomena is exactly what we experienced right after Tinsai, which is again interesting because Hosanna at that time is quote unquote their Passover actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so imagine like as soon as like so their Passover like and then just all night
Yeah.
and then the week the like cinnamon space just crash and then the week after and then it's interesting that that pattern repeating and that we see in Hosanna, like where
Yeah.
people that are superficial repeating again in Tensai. And it's not to say that we have to be perfect and we're never gonna make mistakes. As Saint John said in his epistle, First John,
Yeah.
if you say that you have no sin in you, you are a liar and you're
Yeah.
making God a liar. Okay, there is no way you're not going to sin based on your willpower.
Yeah.
Okay, it's purely going to be done by through the help of God. And you fall and you get back up, and then if we confess our sins, He's truly faithful. He'll cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Same place, First John. And
Yeah.
so it's a matter of coming back, just like Peter did. It's a matter of coming back, as Nicodemus, who was at first scared for his position, now he owns Christ, okay, in
Very
public.
true.
And
Very
so
true.
it's this aspect of coming back. You see that like that pattern being reverted throughout the story of like our seasons, which is Mazagu, like the sinner, he came back, and so on and so forth. And so it's a matter of using that path that God has set for us of repentance because He knows
Exactly.
we're a bunch of bozos.
Exactly.
We're just
Yeah.
gonna mess around, and then but then we have to come back. Like as what does King Solomon say? The righteous fall 7 times and get back up, like each single time. But then
Yeah.
the wicked, they fall at calamity. Like as soon as they fall, they just that's it, and
That's it.
they embrace the way of wickedness
Mm.
or separation from God or from the way of living of God. And so it's going to church again. Back to the main point, the source of holiness due to the Eucharist, what you said earlier. And when you mentioned that verse, by the way, it took me back to the liturgy. You know
Mm.
how people always say, and by people I mean sometimes people that are Orthodox, but then mostly like people that we used to be Orthodox, they left, or
Yeah.
even they end up pointing at the church and saying, "Oh, you guys are just making stuff up."
Yeah.
I got a story for you. The verse you just mentioned, Acts 20:28, is actually
Yeah.
directly from the liturgy. Like it's
Yeah.
also found directly in the liturgy. In Banta, so like the prayer that the deacon prays
Yeah.
in reference of the patriarch. So when we undertake liturgy, we're doing it on behalf of the patriarch. Okay, and then it's a complicated thing. I don't want to get into it right now, but just as a key point though, at the very end of that prayer, it says, "Lord, please accept our sacrifice on behalf of the apostles upon who set your holy church that was sanctified through your blood." Like essentially, like the same wording that you just used, Malachi.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you can find that and then a million other references from the scriptures in a certain way, in a way that we should interpret it in the liturgy Malachi.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that alone should be motivation enough for us to come to partake in the services of the church. The fact
Mm.
that it is biblical. Okay, if anything, it's pre-biblical, but we're not ready for that conversation yet. But it is founded upon the teachings of the apostles
Yeah.
who were taught by directly Christ. You know,
Exactly.
and so as you mentioned too, as much as we go to the church for the Eucharist, we have to, but then that communal aspect also has to be fulfilled, because as much as we have to love God
Yeah.
with all our heart, mind, and strength, we also have to have the capacity to love our neighbor. So sometimes I get that need for people of community, but then the
Yeah.
reason why they end up, as you said, is they already come like timid. They already come to church not wanting to be there.
Yeah.
So how can you enjoy the communal life if you don't even want to be there? And then this is something I learned from my dad. One thing I noticed, just Abashosh in general, but specifically my dad, I want to use him, is not eight to seven times out of 10, they don't really want to talk to people. Like really,
Yes.
really, really, really,
Exhausting.
no. Yeah, like especially a priest,
Yeah.
like all the time, probably not.
Yeah.
Him, he still does it. He still takes the time. Okay, and some might say, okay, this is yulunyuta, or like this is people pleasing, the people pleasing side of my dad.
Yeah.
But one thing that my dad, of course, understands very uh, foundationally in the faith is that the social component, the communal component, is as almost as important as the actual service, because you're not serving alone. The priest is not praying alone. Like
Yeah.
the people are not praying alone. It's not individual prayer. To use
Yeah.
our brother Deacon David's way of saying, Jesus Christ is not our personal savior. He's the savior of the universe.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and the universe meaning hulatchinam abran, like together. And
Exactly.
so we have to maintain that togetherness, and the way to maintain that is to communicate with each other, to be with each other. And again, like all these things can be maintained, even though there's going to be drama, and there's always going to be drama. There's always going to be issues, problems, like that's inevitable. But then, how are you going to show up? Is the real key here, because love isn't. It doesn't expect people to be perfect, because they're not perfect. You're not perfect. They're
Yeah.
broken as much as you are, if not more.
Yeah.
And so, how can you expect them to be completely perfect and then just expect to receive you in that way? It's just that willingness to receive each other that should be the guiding principle. And this kind of brings us up to like, okay, so if I'm there to commune with people, how do I commune with people? That's okay. You're a priest. Do you know your priest? Do you have a confessional priest? And then do you have social accountability? Meaning, do you have people that tell you, hey man, like I haven't seen you at church. Like yet you didn't know. Like
Mm.
what you doing, man? Sundays for God, and then like
Yeah.
calling you out on that, even when you don't like it. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, it's my time, my time, my time. But when you're getting riled up,
Yeah.
you have to have a community around you that calls you out on it, even though like we consider it judgments because we're not connected to the people. In G, sometimes when you really like in the right mindset and also connected with the people, when they ask you, they don't mean it in the sense of, well, some of them do, sadly. Some of them do it and mean it in
Yeah.
the judgmental way. But
But your
then
your view, yeah.
sometimes you'll meet people that genuinely, they're like, hey, like, how are you doing? Like, you'll meet
Yeah.
mothers that are saying that. And it's a matter of social accountability. It's to keep you in the rhythm of the faith. And there's a saying actually in the early churches: one Christian is no Christian. Like uno cristiano, like I forgot how it went in Latin, but it's one Christian is no Christian, because like like what you gonna do like alone.
Yeah.
Of course, there's like personal prayer, but then that's connected to your communal prayer. That's
Yeah.
connected to your partaking of the Eucharist, being a part of the body of Christ, being sanctified by His holy blood. And so there's a chain there that you can't break. You see what I mean? And like
Absolutely.
all of that
Absolutely.
is encapsulated on whether or not you're going to church on Sunday. And
Important.
exactly, exactly. And
Important to have that community.
what I'd like to say is like to kind of bring it all together in a ways. Be ready to be offended into heaven. If you know me, I'm ready to be offended. Please, like
Yeah,
people,
I'll
like
take it.
call me out,
Yeah.
please. I'm ready
Yeah.
to be offended into heaven. I'd rather be offended into heaven than
Yeah.
end up here. So please
Exactly.
offend me to heaven. If I see you, I'll also offend you to heaven. Uh, so
Yeah,
it's very,
that's it.
very important.
Well said. That's exactly what I'm also ready to be offended into the kingdom of heaven. Yeah, that's what we need to do. Yeah. Community is what really matters, you know?
Hmm.
I mean, because you can't experience true love unless you have that community. You can't experience accountability if you don't have another person, because you can't keep yourself accountable. It doesn't make sense. So yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, that community
You know
is
what? An
important.
interesting, as you said it right now, an interesting story that I always go back to is the story of the demoniac.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm saying that right, but the person, the legion. So the person that
Ah,
was
yes,
possessed
yes.
by thousands of demons.
Yeah,
From the Gospel of Saint Matthew, chapter 8, verse 28. Um, he, he was possessed, right? And then that's actually the verse that people use to explain why we don't eat swine as well.
yeah,
Uh, he sent the demons into the swine,
yeah.
and
Into
so
this.
and so what's really interesting about that, people don't really notice that. If you live in our Protestant world, we're like, okay, you have to follow Christ like all the time, every day, like. And then the Jehovah Witnesses, I've seen a lot of them recently. Do
Yeah,
you accept Jesus as your personal savior? And then Alcomo, they just they
yeah,
hold you right there, and then they kind of force you into this little like staring down contest, and you don't see that pattern in the Orthodox faith, and I don't think it's by mistake,
yeah,
you know. Um, and so, what do you see Christ doing when, as soon as he heals this person asks him explicitly, saying, "Rabbi, let me follow you."
yeah.
Ale. And then he said, "No,
I'm good.
no." Which is really like it's bizarre.
Yeah,
He's Christ. Need to know him being below. He wants to follow you. Why would you say no? And then obviously there's commentary behind it, and we can go into to that. But to make our point right now, it's important to understand. No, I know, right? And then what the fathers say is there's a reason behind why he said no, which means again, for everything there's a purpose.
mm,
For everything, there's a purpose. So he said, go back to your people and then show them the power of God and how he has had compassion upon you. Okay? It would have been greater if he was with Christ. But then the
yes,
fact that
yes,
Christ, that's for
yeah,
us.
yeah,
For our interpretation is to be with
yeah.
Christ. Of course, being in Christ is important. But then
Yeah.
Christ turned this man back to his people. Right?
Wow. Yeah.
Maybe he got this demon from these people, but he still
Yeah.
he
He's going back.
still turned them back, and he said,
Yeah.
"Connect with the people. Speak to the people about the glory of God, the miracle that was done upon you, the salvation that came upon you." And it highlights the importance of that communal life, of coming together, just as much as our connection, with God.
Very true.
And to kind of go into a transition. What do you think? What's some content we can consume? So earlier on, we said the Man of God could be like a really good movie that people could watch.
Yeah. I guess still
to
gotta
get
watch.
into. And obviously, again, like all these things, the confessional father, having social accountability, all these things, going to church, partaking of the Eucharist, people know this. Like almost. We always say
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And so we know this. So how can we steer ourselves, almost brainwash ourselves to kind of come back? I think is the best way, is the best starting point, let's say, is consuming orthodox content, let's say, like to kind of, you know, and the reason why I say that is because I read this one quote by Saint John Chrysostom in which he said, if you don't have the power to fully repent right now, if you don't have the strength to fully repent right now, you should at least educate yourself on the faith, because
Mm,
when you continually educate yourself in the faith, at some point, God, seeing your zeal, okay, your continual want to come back to God, He
yeah.
will give you the strength to come back to Him. So if you can't come back like fully with full force due to some reason, whatever is going on with you, at least keep your contact with the faith. At least keep your education. Okay,
Mm,
like be as educated as possible on the faith. Like, what are the church fathers saying? What does the scripture say? What is the, again, church as well? If you can't partake of communion, or like you're keeping yourself, or whatever, for
yeah.
whatever reason it is, keep your contact somehow, your connection somehow. And one step into that is, obviously the content we consume. Do you have any recommendations?
I like CYC a lot. I love their content.
Mm.
And I love
Siwati is still laman ko tantanan.
Coptic Youth Channel. I think that's what it's called. It has
Okay.
grown over the past few years significantly, and I had the privilege also to serve with them a little bit. And they're incredible people. They are uh, what I love is like they're very inclusive of all other Oriental churches, which is very
Mhm.
rare to see. So
Mhm.
it's a wonderful channel from like a very young age, from kindergarten to older generation to being parents to even older ones. They have different programs for different ages. So for your age group, you will find a program that really suits you with the struggles that
Mhm.
you have, with the difficult questions that you have. We've been me and this person I've been dating for 3 years, and we are, we want to be, sexually active. These kind of tough questions to priests,
Mhm.
all that are also like very young. They're like 28, 29, and you're like, that's
Mhm.
so cool. Like
I remember there
seeing,
was this one series that they had called
yeah.
Fireplace. Fireplace,
Oh,
no?
yes,
Remember
yes,
that? Like, it was
yes.
exclusively on relationships, and like specifically like an intercourse, like how that interplay is within the relationship that you're in, like how to
Yeah,
handle it. Literally, they called it Fireplace because of that, vigor.
yeah.
You
So
know,
what's creative? That's a
because
it's a poetic.
I know.
It is. It's a
Don't get
fireplace.
in there.
Also, it's a fireplace. That's definitely a hit right there. But yeah, It's an amazing channel that you can watch. Also, Orthodox Answers. They do also do these difficult questions as well. It's also a
Recently,
Coptic
yeah, they
church
started doing that.
based
They
in
have another
Canada.
podcast.
Yeah,
We,
they're
we
doing
may have to
podcasting.
pronounce it though.
Yeah, I was like,
Crossover.
feature.
Crossover at some point,
They're a
yeah.
good channel too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many of I think a lot of our followers listen to Amharic programs as well. I listen to
Hmm.
Amharic or Tigrinya programs as well. So definitely
It's a
there are
golden
certain
age, man.
teachers.
For
Yeah,
real. It's really a golden age for the Orthodox
the
faith.
resource is too much, too much. I
Yeah.
think maybe that's why, because like
That's the
the
problem.
Fae,
That's
you
really the
don't know,
problem.
right? You're like, this is too much.
Yeah, you're
Uh,
listening to too much.
Yeah, but let's not. I see it as when you get on Netflix and you're like, let me watch a movie, and then you just scroll for like an hour and a half and not find
Trying
anything
to
to
find something good. Yeah.
watch. So it's like hours pass on without you choosing one thing. So maybe
Hmm.
that's why. But when it comes to spirituality, you don't have to pick and choose which one is going to be good for me. Like you said, everything, every wisdom, every knowledge that you could possibly take is going to be helpful in your spiritual journey. So yeah,
Hmm.
take the
Exactly.
opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's this one, if I may, I want to recommend. There's this one podcast.
Todd.
It came out recently, actually. They have really they have really good hosts, no?
Hey, they give out prizes, I heard.
You know, it didn't get too much traction. I really thought, like, when the prizes, when we put out the prizes,
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna get a little bit more traction. Dang, is we may have to make we may have to make the real, like, super super edited. You know, the ones that just like
Yeah.
Misa Brut, your attention span,
Yeah.
just the quotes and, like, the all the lights and stuff. I wanted to spare people
We
from
we
doing
don't
that,
have
but
the
then
budget.
maybe that's the way to get people
We got to start walking around, go to local churches, and you know how people comment, interviews like this with their mouthpiece. Are you subscribed? I'm about to start doing that in the beta Magdas, bro. Bro, are you subscribed to Audio today?
nah, really, 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 really.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's great content. So, by the way, congratulations, Beta Mariam, on winning the prize. You didn't have a lot of competition, maybe like 8 or 9.
Yeah,
Still,
yeah, exactly, exactly.
yeah.
Congratulations. Demo, like, some people said to me, "Keith, not." I'm like, I reserve. I reserve. I like
So, coming back home, coming back home.
it. I like it. And
Yeah,
nah, I thought. And not as I know, just content wise, I think those are definitely really good ones. There's one more. So the ones that you just mentioned, so the Coptic Orthodox Answers, they started a podcast, which is really interesting, really helpful.
yeah.
They just had an episode actually about, I think, primarily on, like, one of the taboo topics, like pornography, like, which is really interesting, like almost the entire podcast. Uh,
It's so important that we have this conversation. And for a very long time, people just something that people just avoid. I don't even think
yeah.
people that's how taboo it is. People don't even talk about it to each other, let alone
Mhm,
to a
mhm.
priest or a priest actually having conversations about that. So it's a huge struggle that is not talked about. So it's amazing.
Exactly, exactly, and it's very a really good channel. Like, overall, like, all the question and answers that they've done,
Yeah,
I think, honestly, Kazavalai, or, like, at the level of production and then answers and then resources, the church fathers that they quoted, like, I'm
yeah.
sure you've seen some of the videos. Man,
Yeah, they
very
also have
very
the website too. If you
the
want
website.
the manuscript and stuff like that, so they have the website as well. Orthodox Answers, I think maybe .org or
Yeah,
dot
Coptic
one of
Orthodox
them.
Answers, dot,
Yeah,
I think, org or com. Like, it should be
yeah,
on the description of their channel, Coptic Orthodox
yeah.
Answers.
So
Uh,
not only can you hear it, but also you can just like quote it and maybe even refer it to a friend. They can watch it. So it's
exactly.
it's an amazing content that they have.
Yes. And I have one more before we move on to the next one.
Yeah.
One more is Studio Ale.
Yeah,
Abash,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
fine.
There's a studio. Ale.
Yeah,
It's a very good one. It's
sponsor.
putting out really interesting stuff. We may have a guest from that we recently saw from the studio, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hint, hint. Uh, Maybe.
Maybe. Not today, maybe.
And
Yeah,
so, Um, definitely, like, I think Hadra Studios, for sure. People should definitely check out. You know what I've been wondering? The third episode, is it the third or fourth of
the
of
upcoming episode. I think we were episode 5.
five now, right now? Okay,
5, yeah.
yeah, we're
5
still
is
waiting on
coming
that.
out. Yeah,
Are
five,
you gonna
five,
watch
five
it?
is coming out. Yeah, but it's one I really enjoy doing. It's also
Mm-hmm.
a setup for the next because like the series will end in episode 8, I believe. I know we've been elongating it, but it's one I really enjoyed doing because it has so much like relationship. It has mental health. There's so many things like stable versus Medicaid. All these things are in there, and I've been just
Mm-hmm.
enjoying that series that they've been doing. Amazing people out
Interesting.
there.
Yeah. Greet at the canal. Please don't
Yeah.
make us wait longer. Make us wait
It
longer.
should be. I think maybe this weekend, I would
Oh,
say, will be out.
oh,
Yeah.
drop.
Yeah.
Mata.
Yeah.
Shito.
I was done. Like editing and everything is done.
Amen.
Yeah, we're
I guess
just
we're excited. We're excited to be there.
I am excited. I watched it 2 times. Yeah, I cheated. I cheated.
Man, excited,
I couldn't
excited. We're
help it.
gonna see it.
Yeah.
We're gonna see it for sure, for sure. So yeah, I think that that suffices for now. Sti soon as soon as all those recommendations. Sti lela bla chulo mutul sti nulin sti.
Yeah. Also, people can comment. One thing that I love is that people watch comments for some other reason. I wasn't a person like that, but people actually look at comment sections. So just recommend some stuff for us as well. Some things that we may have missed. A lot of people have different contents as well. So let us know.
Mhm. There was this one comment, by the way. Hey, it was really interesting to see. It was a United Methodist. I don't know if you saw it too. Like on one of our episodes,
Okay.
United Methodist Christian, I think. He
Really?
commented. He said, "I'm not Ethiopian Orthodox. Again, I saw this episode and I just thought this is very nice. Like God bless you, and so on and so forth." And I just thought,
Oh,
and he's not even Abisha. I don't think he it just randomly
I
popped up
doubt it.
on
I
his,
doubt
yeah,
it.
it just randomly popped
We're
up on his thing. I was like, wow,
Yeah, we're
like
not that friendly. For some reason, our communities are. Yeah, we're not like that because I remember I used to do videos on back when I was where helping out How to Studios. I did
mm,
one on I think it was like on Timkat or something like that, and then there
mhm,
was a channel of a certain denomination
mhm.
basically just like tearing me down like minute by minute. I'll send you it. It's the
Ooh.
funniest thing in the world. Like
Oh,
it's
like
like
it was like
we
a response video.
yeah, like it
Okay,
was
okay.
mescal. I think Eleni found the mescal and all these things.
Mm, mm.
Where does it say that this is historically inaccurate? It's not written in the Bible, like word for word. It was like a 15-minute sermon,
Uh-huh.
but the breakdown was an hour and a half.
Yeah, how many views? I want to see the comparison though. Like, how many views?
I'm gonna send you the link. It's so funny because I don't even think we saw the sermon. Yeah, like the Open Orthodox Church. I don't even think we
No
watched the
one saw
sermon, but they watched it.
it. Man,
It's
that is
crazy. So
wild.
yeah, but at least a brother like that is we love.
That's
Yeah.
actually a really good segue into what I wanted to mention, like, because you see that person. I think his goal, or I don't know, is it a he or she?
I'd say it's a he.
And not his goal is just to kind of garner like a viewership, you know,
Yeah.
and as much as possible, like, that's not the goal. Like as a like when you do something, your goal isn't that thing that you do, quote unquote. Like when
Yeah.
you brush your teeth, you're not doing it for the sake of doing it. Like,
Yeah.
unless you haven't really thought about it. I hope people do. But
Yeah. It's
when you
just
brush your teeth, you're not doing it just for the sake of, like, oh, you're
uh
doing it because ain't nobody want to smell your
yeah.
bad breath.
They
Like, don't do that.
possible.
Exactly, absolutely. And so, like, for everything, there's like a purpose that's higher than it. A
Yeah.
hierarchy. And so, the content again. If your goal is to make content and for the sake of making content, you always find a video to make a response to. You always find a video that you may not fully agree on,
Yeah.
and then but then so you'll have two options. Do you make a response video and then just go ham crazy, and then people come together with you, and then you make the comment section, and then you make money that way? Do you want to make money that way, or do you want, okay, like, there's like a step higher, like, what's the goal of me watching this content right here? Okay, is
Very
it
true.
is it la marafno? Is it to rest?
Yeah.
Okay, like, it's a time for resting, fine. Okay, am I watching this content to learn something from it? Okay, so in that case, then I have to take notes so that I can actually remember it. And
Yeah.
then when I remember it, there's a higher goal. Okay, if I remember it, then I act upon it. And then if I act upon it, then someone else might benefit. You know what I mean? There's like
Exactly.
a higher goal. And then that's kind of how even the church is outlined when you look at it. Mifnatum, the podcast that we watch, and we said this earlier with Dakwan Diet. These podcasts, it's not an end. Like don't come here and then just watch and then that's it. We
Yeah.
talk about all these things.
Yeah.
Just getting you to
Yeah.
where we want to go. Um, if you don't take what's necessary and then act upon it and then live it out in your specific community, then all of this is for nothing. All of this just is empty. Just it's going to be forgotten
Very true.
for no use. And so it's podcast, and then why? So that I can write it down. Maybe maybe this could turn into a book. We don't know.
You never know.
And then that moves you into okay, like these stuff. Like where can I find them? Scriptures, right? The writing of the fathers.
Yeah.
Okay, when you read these, some fathers even say that like people that read, their prayer starts to become even more intelligent because they start to understand what the father like, what the how who God is and
Yeah.
how He operates when they read about it. And
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
that's a higher goal. Like your prayer becomes better. Like you're more attuned to who God is and to who you really are. And then when you pray properly, then you can come together with other people who pray properly. And then you know what I mean. And then like it all lays itself out, and you just kind of harmonize yourself
Yeah.
properly in your community when you understand that this is not the end goal, the content itself, and finding no and then mention that again Q&A or something again.
Okay.
If you remember one of the earliest videos, like our first episode, I made a mistake. I have to own it. I made a
Really?
mistake. I said 2 feet.
Oh.
I said 2 feet when I really meant to say bahid.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
lowercase tradition,
Yeah.
like bahil, like مكان የሚችለው ቀኖና, like what's changeable canon. I
Yes.
meant to
Yes.
say
Yes.
that, but then I
Yeah.
said 2 feet, right? And then remember you posted it on your TikTok, nah?
Okay.
Uh, on the comment section, one of them, they're like, Lemon dinner, why did you say 2 feet? 2 feet. See,
Okay. Okay.
indeed, indeed, on the comment section, they're like, and the
Yeah.
same thing at the St. Paul Church, their Instagram.
Yeah.
Indeed, why is it 1 inch? They're reading the scriptures to you, and they're like 1 inch. I don't
Yeah.
know.
That's it.
And people are more concerned about that, and it's interesting. It's even sadder when I see like our people our age, they end up criticizing Abish, fob people that end up doing that. But
Yeah.
then you see them doing the same thing in a different place.
Exactly.
They end up
Exactly.
like focusing on something that's lower when there's like a higher thing that's going on that they're not aiming at.
Yeah.
And you just end up in the comment section wars. And so, anyways, all that to say, maintain. That's how you elevate towards sanctity. Like you have
Very true.
to seek something that's higher, like in everything.
Yeah.
So even rest, Rasu, like that's to help you to get back up. You need rest.
Exactly.
Like it's
Yeah.
very important. That's why we have Sabbath, like
Yeah.
Sanbat,
Yeah.
or even throughout your day. Like when you rest, it's to get back to on the road of salvation. It's not to kind of let loose and just end up being, you know,
Yeah.
with just to fall apart. And yeah, and then really, may God grant us a heart to repent and to just really be with Him in every moment and
Amen.
remember Him. Yeah. Do you have anything to add?
No, I think that's is fantastically elaborated. There's not much I'm going to add. It would be to you and ما بلاش تيونا. Perfectly said.
So the Q&A, we've seen. It would be really cool to see more people asking topic ideas
Yeah.
that haven't already been done. So a while ago, I put out the Q&A on the account
Yeah.
on the Instagram and also on the Spotify. But then a lot of them are ones that are already done. For example, like I think I saw a question about, or they wanted an episode on Protestant theology versus Orthodox theology.
Okay.
And then obviously, as we said earlier, like there's content outside and also content, Ahadu has done through our very own
Oh yes,
media.
yes, yeah.
Like there's
Scripture
so
only,
yeah, so to just
faith
kind of
only.
go back to go
Yeah,
back over it is just kind of it gets a little repetitive. Even when you
yeah,
look at the mysteries, Russell, the mysteries you always have to look at it from a different angle, from a different light, because if you always go over it over and over and over again, of course you hammer it down bakan like by the letter,
recitation.
but
Yeah,
then do you just want to understand it by the letter of exactly what we say, or do you want it to pervade your understanding of the reality of the faith, the
yeah,
reality of God, and so we have to kind of that's the goal of Tawahid today, really, like to
exactly,
bring about the unification of the faith, right? The teachings, Christ Himself, through His grace, like today, right? So
exactly.
what is it actually like? What's our life like? And then how does that like how do we bridge that gap of And so
Yeah,
hopefully people really take a moment to really think, okay, like where's that bridge between my life and then the church? Like how have I severed that bridge, and then how can I reunify that? Come from
yeah,
that perspective, and when you ask the questions, I really hope people ask more thought provoking questions. I definitely
yeah,
uh, I'm interested to hear the topics, and
yeah,
also find people, because there's a lot, like really there's a lot of
yeah,
experts, uh, people that have experience that we can bring on, or even through understanding of the fathers, going over to kind of bridge that gap of stuff that we haven't really considered but are really spiritual aspects of life. And so please, people, really think about your questions and
yeah.
be forthright. Like I don't want to hear no dating questions. Go to OTYD, look up Deacon Gorgorios, and then just watch that
Dude,
series. Like
that's done. That's it. If not, Diakon Heno Kailis as well. He's done it a lot. He's also here in Dallas, so he's doing a
yeah. Did
series.
you get to
So
see him?
I'll
I
go
still haven't
ask
got
him.
to see him.
I just got back, so I didn't get an opportunity to go see him just yet. But I'll
Yeah,
see him.
you
Hopefully,
have
I'll
time.
see him
Like
this weekend.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I'll see him this weekend. Yeah, and also we can't be that TikTok channels. Those TikTok debates that they have where they just go on and on.
Yeah.
You don't want to make it that.
Mhm.
This is not going to be another speaker's corner. I mentioned it last time, where just people go and just like shout at each other, try to refute, debunk people's theory and theology. Yes, it's pointless. Like that
Yeah.
thing does not help, and people are entertained by these things. People, unfortunately, they watch it for the negative aspect of it instead of something thought provoking, something that would help them in their spiritual journey. They would watch these things and really mess up their own progress. So instead of those things, we really recommend watching these positive channels
Mhm.
that really build you instead of
Mhm.
breaking you down or watching other people break each other down.
Exactly. And then
Yeah.
yeah, even on top of that, Dagamo, I'm really excited to see you go around and say,
I
we're,
got it already.
we're going to do that soon.
Are you subscribed to? I have to do it like this. That's the
Yes,
thing.
yes, yes, yes.
I was like,
We're definitely doing that soon, soon, soon.
yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's definitely more to come,
yeah,
God willing. All right, Taru. With that, we call it the end of this
man.
episode. And then next time, we'll see you with a really interesting,
Different.
intriguing.
This
Should
was
we
just
just
a
close or
sec.
just like
Nah,
leave it
nah,
on the edge?
nah. Leave it hanging. Leave it hanging. That's what you're supposed to do.
You'll see us again,
Discuss
God
Hamid.
willing, with another one.
All right.
All
Wonderful to see
right.
you, and thank you all for tuning in. See you soon.